Hi and welcome to my April wrap-up, and this is probably going to be a long one because I read a crap ton of books and I'm just a talker anyways. You're forewarned. So I read 18 books and 2 novellas, so let's just go. Okay. So first I read Slammed by Colleen Hoover, and I actually did a review on all 4 of the Colleen Hoover books I read at this point, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. You can just check out that video if you want, but I gave Slammed 4 stars. In summary, I didn't like it as much as Hopeless, but I still thought it was an interesting read, and I did not see the twist coming. Next, I read Losing It by Cora Carmack, which I read as a Nook book, and this I gave 3.5 stars. I thought it was okay. I reviewed this as well, so I'll link the video that was reviewed in. I did like a new adult mashup. I just thought it was a little predictable, a little bland, a little normal, a little easy, so nothing special, but it wasn't bad. And then I read Point of Retreat, which is probably my favorite in the series. I gave this 4.5 stars, and again, I talked about this in that other review, but this is the sequel to Slammed. Then I read The Sea of Monsters by Rick Riordan, which is the 2nd book in the Percy Jackson series, and I gave this, what did I give this? I gave this 4 stars, which I believe is what I gave the first book as well, The Lightning Thief. And I did really enjoy it. There were parts of it where Percy kind of bothered me, but I understand he's a kid. I get why he was thinking what he was thinking and doing what he was doing. It took me a little while to get into it, but once I did, I was super absorbed into the story and really, really enjoying it, and I am excited to continue to read the series. Apparently, I was in like a Greek mood, because after that I moved on to Starcrossed by Josephine Angelini. I also did a non-spoiler review of this trilogy, so I will link that below as well if I remember. I'm not the best at remembering those things, but this is a retelling basically of the Iliad by Homer, which I have not read, so means nothing to me, but it's about Greek mythology and a girl named Helen, and just all kinds of craziness happens. They're a pretty good series. They're not my favorite. I'm not sure. These were library books. I'm not sure I would buy them because I'm not sure I would ever reread them, but they're definitely interesting and I would suggest reading them. And I gave Starcrossed 4 stars, and right after I read that I went right into the sequel Dreamless, which got 4.5 stars. This was my favorite out of the series, but then I kind of needed a little break, you know, some time away from the series, and by time away I mean like 2 days, but whatever. I just needed, you know, to get out of those books for a while, so I read Trust in Me by J. Lynn or Jennifer L. Armentrout, which is the companion novel to Wait for You, and it's basically Wait for You told from the male character Cam's perspective, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I reviewed this in a video as well, so if I remember I'll link that below, but Cam is just amazing and this book was awesome. But definitely don't read it. I say this in the review too. Don't read it unless you've read Wait for You. You need to read them together, not separately. And then, apparently that was enough time away, I went back and finished the Starcrossed series and read Goddess, which I gave 4 stars. It was a good book. It was a good conclusion, but it was just missing a little something at the end for me. There was some disappointment, but not a lot. Then I figured, why not finish another series? And I read This Girl by Colleen Hoover, which got 4.5 stars. And I liked this book as well, but Point of Retreat I still think is my preferred one. This was told in a really interesting way. It's kind of like Slammed from Will's perspective, but the way it's told is different from other books like this, considering a lot of new adult authors do the same kind of thing. And then I read The Guard by Kira Cass, which is the 2nd novella in the Selection series, so this is the one from that jerk-face Aspen's point of view, and I had been putting this off because I can't stand Aspen. Like, if you are Team Aspen, can you let me know why? Like, what about him? Actually, parts of the novella kind of made me sort of sympathize with him, but not really. So I sort of see where people of better Team Aspen would come from, but no. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't hate it. I thought it was a pretty decent novella. It was kind of nice to see more of like the servant class of people, because you don't get to see as much of that in the selection series, because it's more focused on what America is seeing and Aspen gets to see more than she does. So that was kind of interesting and shows you more about the rebels and everything, which hopefully becomes an even bigger plot line in the one. I'm hoping. So, but I'm definitely glad I read it, and it kind of got me excited to read the one. Then I read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. And what did I give this? I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy this. I think one of the reasons I enjoyed it is because so many people have read and talked about and reviewed this book at this point that I knew going into it that it was a ton of world building for future books, and so the less amount of plot and that kind of development didn't surprise me, which I think is why it got a higher rating from me. If I hadn't heard all of that and I had just picked it up, it probably would have gotten a 3 stars, but my perception was different going into it. But I did enjoy it. I'm excited to continue to read. I have no idea what's going on with the love triangle. I have no opinions on it at all. Sometimes I think I do, but I don't. So, I don't know. But I am interested. There's just so much going on, and there's so many characters and just so many questions left unanswered. I'm definitely glad this is going to be a longer series. I think, what is it supposed to be, like 6 books or something, instead of just a trilogy. There's just too much going on here. Too much. Like Selena, but sometimes she's a little weird to me. Like, she's not a complete consistent character to me. Sometimes her choices don't fully make sense to me, but I'm hopeful that that gets better as the second book, when I read the second book, and maybe when I read the prequel novellas as well, show me a little bit more about her. And I almost dropped it. Then I read Black City by Elizabeth Richards. Actually, I don't think I gave it 3 stars. I guess it didn't get that bad of a rating, but I don't know what I thought this book was going to be about, and like I reread the synopsis and I don't know. So apparently there's like vampires, which is not what I thought. I thought it was just a dystopian, but it's kind of like dystopian meets vampires kind of thing, but they're different vampires, which is definitely interesting. The thing about this book is that it has so much potential. Like, the concept and the idea and the characters have the potential to become something great, but what was done with them was just a disappointment. I do own the second book, Phoenix, so I will read that, and then I will probably finish and read the last book, but I'll probably just get it from the library or something. I'm definitely not planning on paying full price for it unless Phoenix is like freaking amazing. The other thing is I just couldn't stand the romance in here. It was such insta-love, it was ridiculous. I would start to enjoy the book and be like, oh, okay, and then the characters just like see each other and be like, oh my gosh, I love you, and I'd be like, oh, no, 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 no. And I like romance, but the romance in here just did not work for me at all. No. And I feel like it's only going to get worse in the next book. And also, I just felt like there was some lack of world building. Like, I just have a lot of questions about what's going on, but like with most series, I am hopeful that will get addressed in the next book. Plus, I only paid $2 for it, so I feel like I can't complain too much. I read Venom by Fiona Paul, which is the first book in the Secrets of the Eternal Rose series, and this is a historical romance mystery novel. Basically, it's kind of hard to describe. I feel like it's a weird genre for young adult. This exists like ad nauseum in the adult romance world, but in young adult I haven't seen a lot like this, so that was kind of interesting. And I did give it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but it was just lacking something that couldn't, like, I couldn't give it 5 stars for that reason, and I'm not sure what that was, so I feel bad that I can't explain it, but it was definitely different and unique. I kind of liked the way the romance was handled and developed in the book, and it is a series, so I'm curious to see where it all goes and to see what happens and who's really bad and who's really good, because I don't know, and I'm always scared people are gonna die. And the mystery was handled really, really well, like the mystery and the suspense aspect. I was like anxious for our characters, but I wasn't like crazy, like I freak out very easily, so it wasn't too much, but it was handled very, very well. I did really enjoy this. And then I read 2 books for the Claire-a-thon, and that was exactly like I said I would. Pretty proud of myself. I read City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare, and I gave this 4.5 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. Oh my gosh, my emotions in this book were like a roller coaster. I just had moments where I was questioning myself, I was questioning what I thought I knew about these characters, and I was questioning the way I felt about characters, which I thought was really, really good. I hated that she freaking put me through those things, but that's amazing that something I felt since book 1 or book 2 could be so drastically changed. And I am definitely excited to read City of Heavenly Fire. I just want to know what happens with all of these people. I'm just so excited and nervous to see people die. I'm like so scared. I'm so scared. I don't even know who's gonna die. I don't even want to make predictions. And then I read The Shadowhunters Codex by Cassandra Clare and her husband Joshua Lewis, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars just because for what it is, it's amazing. It's freaking hilarious. If you don't know, it's kind of like a companion in the world of the Mortal Instrument, well, all of her books. The Shadowhunters Codex is a thing, so this is like what they're given to read, and so this is Clary's copy, and it includes writing, like she and Simon and Jace are writing in it and everything, and those are hilarious, and you really feel their characters. There's also tons and tons of pictures in it, which is really cool. They're just like, there's those, and then there's like this, and this page, I can't believe I just opened this one. I don't know if this is on purpose or not, but like there's like the cathedral. I assume it's supposed to be like the institute, and then on this page there's like bleeding, and I don't know if it just happened in printing or if they did it on purpose, like as if this was done in pen and then the book closed, but just it was informative. Like you definitely learn more about characters and creatures in the world, but also just seeing the 3 of them interact is awesome. Even though I'm sure they would be offended, Simon and Jace are quickly becoming like my favorite bromance ever. I love when they are together and like interacting with one another. It's hilarious, and you get a decent amount of that in here. So, and then the If I Stay trailer dropped, which I had heard of this book, but I had never even read a synopsis, so I had no idea what it was about. I just watched the trailer and I loved it. The trailer was so emotional, just touching. So I decided to give the book a try. So I went to the library just in case I didn't like it, which I did, so you know. And I actually picked up both books. I got If I Stay and Where She Went, and I definitely recommend reading them back to back. Emotional, oh, was that word? It's a very emotional read, like both of them, but it pays off to read them together, and they're both relatively short. This is like less than If I Stay is like less than 200 pages, right? Yes, and Where She Went is less than 300, so it's really not hard at all. I gave them both 5 stars, but I think Where She Went is I like Where She Went more. If I Stay is about a girl named Mia, and she gets in a car accident, and basically she's in critical condition, and the idea of it is she, and her family has passed away, is she going to stay and live, or is she going to leave? like go be with her family and leave her world behind, and it's just her looking back at her life. The trailer really focuses on like the romantic aspect of it, but I think the book is much more an even distribution of the romantic relationship, her relationship with her parents, her grandparents, her brother, all of those things. I did cry reading this, and I think a lot of people would, especially if you're like close to your family or you have like friends that you consider family and you think about the loss of them. That's kind of what this made me feel like. And it's it's almost got spiritual qualities or like religious tones, but it doesn't. There's really gentle blend, I guess. So if you were religious, you could read into it, and if you're not, you wouldn't be offended or anything like that. And then I really don't want to talk much about where she went, because I think it kind of spoils things, but this book was even worse. I hated Gail Forman the whole time I was reading this because my emotions were too intense, and I read this book while I was working and was scared I was going to bawl my eyes out, and this book made me feel so many of the emotions that the characters were feeling. Just, oh my gosh, seriously. I feel like this book was actually harder to read, like emotionally harder to read than If I Stay. And then I actually got this top chopsticks at a bargain store, so this was only $2. And I had heard about this a little bit last year, I believe, and it's kind of different. So it includes pictures and letters and television screens and stuff. And it's about a girl named Glory, and she's like a prodigy pianist, and then one day all she'll play is chopsticks, and she ends up getting put like in an insane asylum kind of place, and then she goes missing, and there's a boy and there's things, and it's like what happened, and like this is the weirdest book to describe. I don't even like the last sentence in the synopsis is, "Now Glory has disappeared, but nothing is what it seems, and we must decide what is real, what is imagined, and what has been madness all along." And I finished this book and I had an idea of what I thought happened. So I went on Goodreads and read some reviews, and there's like some people that think the same thing I did, there's other people that think other things. It kind of depends on how you read it, and then if you read it or relook at it, you might see things you missed before and everything, which I think is interesting and fun, and it was definitely a different kind of read. I would say you're more consuming it than you're reading it because it's such a visual image. And I did enjoy it. I gave it 3 stars, but I'm glad I only paid $2 for it. I guess I couldn't connect to the characters, and I honestly think that's the medium that the story was told in. Was I supposed to be invested in somebody? Because I wasn't. But it was definitely an interesting story. I read it in one sitting. It's a big book, but it's mostly pictures, so it's not hard to read at all. I think like my library carries this, so if you wanted to check it out, I would just get it out of the library. And then I read Keeping Her by Cora Carmack, which is a like sequel little novella thing to Losing It, and I gave this 3 stars. I kind of felt the same way about this, the way I felt about Losing It. It was just, problems were resolved a little easily. It was a little predictable. It was just, for me. Just, I wasn't disappointed in it, but I also didn't think it was amazing. And then I read Legend by Marie Lu. I was actually planning on reading this in May, but I had to make an Amazon order, and I wanted to know if I should order the second 2 books or not, and I was a little concerned I wouldn't like this, so I decided to read it. It got 3 stars out of me, which I kind of feel like maybe I should change, because that's what I gave Black City, and I feel like I like this more, but I actually have a lot of the same issues with this book. I have a lot of world building questions that just, again, hopefully will get answered in the next book. but left things to be desired for me here. And again, this is a really interesting concept, and the characters are interesting, although I like Day more than I like June, but I'm not sure if they're going to be executed well or not. And one thing I do like is that June isn't like the normal girl in a dystopian. Like, normally they're kind of already a little rebellious. Well, she's rebellious, but not against her government. And I kind of like that she's very loyal, and so basically what we're going to have to see, I'm assuming, is her transformation and her decision to completely turn. And that's something I think could be really fun to see and explore and see where her arc goes as a character. So, and I also liked the way that the romance was handled in here, unlike Black City. Maybe I really should change my rating for this. I don't know. Ugh, I don't know. The romance was handled spectacularly. It was paced really well, and I am interested to see where the characters and the story is going to go in the next and final book. Plus, I've heard Champion is a pretty good ending, like as far as series go, so hopefully. Oh my gosh, so many books. Okay, so those are the books that I read in May. No, not May. It's not even. Ugh. Those are the books I read in April. Thanks for watching. Bye.